All right, looks like we're streaming live.
It does look like we're streaming live. Hi, everybody. We are here to do a mini training on engaging children on telehealth. And while we wait, we just wanted to jump in and tell you a couple of stories and experiences that we've had and that we've heard from our students. This pandemic and the move to telehealth has been such a whirlwind. And I was chatting with one of our students yesterday, and she said she felt like a fish out of water when the pandemic started. She said what so many therapists are saying. She was used to having her toys and games and arts and crafts supplies right at her fingertips. She said sessions were vibrant and alive, but then they felt dead and boring and flat from behind the screen. She confessed that when quarantine was extended, she thought about giving up being a therapist for real. And we've heard this from a lot of you. So feeling desperate, she attended one of our trainings way back in May, and she said it revived her. I'm going to read you the email she sent to us after she took the class. And don't worry, she gave us permission to share this. She said, "You guys gave me so many ideas and tools. I felt excitement for the work again, and I felt like myself again." She said, "I honestly burst into tears of joy after the training because I felt so much relief." Y'all know that feeling, right? We've all had it. She went on to say, "Now I have all these interventions and scripts to read off the screen whenever I need them. But most importantly, I have my confidence back." Now, I find that pretty amazing that she went from thinking that she was going to have to give up her private practice to having a full one. That's what we do. That's why we do this work, you guys. Instilling confidence in ourselves right now is imperative because our kiddos need us. Welcome to everyone just hopping on. Type yes in the chat if you can hear me and we're good on streaming. We want to make sure everybody can hear us. Now, while you're doing that, we want to tell you something else. We know you've had some wacky session experiences with kiddos since quarantine. Lots of them. We know, for example, that during sessions, you've been put inside hamster and rat cages, under beds, in closets for a time out. You've been put in freezers for asking too many questions. You've been put on top of animals like household dogs and cats. Obviously, they make a nice phone stand. You've been put in doll houses. You've been on bike rides and swinging on swings. You've been swimming in pools, bounced on trampolines, and been up and down countless flights of stairs. Where is the Dramamine? I'm dizzy just thinking about it. What haven't we seen at this point? Type yes if you've felt dizzy during a kiddo session or been placed somewhere funny. Tell us about it. We've heard so many funny stories. Just about everyone who sees kiddos has a potty or farting story. That comes with the territory. We work with small kids, but who would have thought that we'd be riding in computers and tablets inside the actual bathroom with them? How many of you have said something like, "Put me down first," as you realize you're heading in the bathroom with them? One therapist said her kiddo client, this is so funny, y'all. Her kiddo client painted the most beautiful picture of her with a giant heart and blonde hair and hoop earrings and a big smile. Fast forward a few weeks, and that client drew the same picture with the therapist black roots showing. Hashtag 2020 roots. Nobody's dyeing their hair right now, and there's been a real return to the simpler things. So last one, this is so funny. A therapist told us he was working with a student who was at their grandparents' house, and right before session started, the therapist heard grandma yell to grandpa, "Put your shorts on before you come out here." We've heard so many amazing stories. Now take a moment right now and just check in with how you feel. Maybe you feel some openness from laughing. Maybe you feel seen, hearing you're not alone in these wacky experiences. Maybe you're just so burnt out and exhausted that you're barely holding on. Let us know in the chat. What are you noticing about how you feel? It can be a sentence or just one word. alive, present, calm, scared, curious, whatever. These mind-body explorations are exactly the thing we show you how to incorporate into every session. We have so much to share, so we're going to jump in.
Let's start by getting to know you all. So to get started and learn about your community, tell us in the chat where you're from. And in addition to telling us where you're tuning in from, let us know, are you wearing sweatpants?
I am. We are.
I am too. We're so happy to be here. It's such an honor to be training with this outstanding group of teletherapists. So we've joined forces with Dan and Bianca and Therapist Toolbox to put together a very special training for this teleplay community. And that training is going to be next Friday, December 11th.
We couldn't be more.
At 10 a.m. on Zoom.
We couldn't be more excited to share our tools and resources with your group. Today and Thursday, we're going to have Facebook Live mini trainings, but mark your calendars for what Maria just said. December 11th at 10 a.m. is going to be when our exclusive training for just your community will happen. We're going to drop the link in the chat so you can register right now. Now, this is really important to know, everybody. It's not going to be recorded, so make sure that you mark your calendar.
Okay, so this just in, Victoria says, actually jeans today. Maybe that's because we had a 4-day weekend. Pakistan and sweatpants, excellent. Pajama pants from Illinois.
I love that somebody's wearing jeans. Good on ya. That's fancy for these days. All right, so we want to know a little bit more. Will you all comment in the chat about what age group you see? Maybe you see the younger ones, maybe a little older. Maybe you see all of the age groups of our little ones. And then lastly, say yes if you love working with kids.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So we know that you find it hard to engage your clients on telehealth. We understand you don't feel like you're engaging them or have enough interventions, and it's exhausting to drink from an empty cup, right? So today we'll give you some engagement tools and interventions you can use right away. And then we have that free 1-hour training up exclusively for you guys next Friday as well, which will take us deeper.
Yeah, you know, people, therapists, psychologists, OTs reaching out to us saying that it's really hard to engage the kiddos. And they say, I feel useless, frustrated, and defeated. I feel overwhelmed and anxious. I don't feel effective in my sessions. They're using words like feeling inadequate and incompetent, and sometimes question their skills. Feeling completely out of sorts, talking to a client through the screen, questioning themselves, wondering if what they're doing is even working. Some of you are even saying you feel like a brand new therapist all over again, and that the techniques that you've been using in your therapy room, well, they're not translating online. Some people say, I just have so many questions. I feel lost. And we want you to know that you're not alone. So many of you have said these exact words. You know, who here feels like burnt toast or crispy like a chip 9 months into the pandemic? Those are the words you're using to describe how you feel right now. Between your practices, trying to stay safe from a deadly virus, and taking care of your own families, you feel burnt out and so crispy that if someone touched you too hard, you might just crack. We get it. The stress of 2020 really is unprecedented. Never before have we been swimming in so much unknown for so long. It would be a lot for anyone. Here's the good news. You don't have to research anymore, and you don't have to rely on any outside YouTube links or videos to keep kids engaged. When you have your hands on our telehealth mind-body methodology and our interventions, instead of spending time trying to come up with things to do in session and getting more exhausted, when you have them, you'll have time and space to be with your loved ones or walk your dog an extra loop around the block. If you have animals, please tell me which one you have in the chat. Mine's Otis. Some of you may know him, and he's a therapy dog. But even he's burnt out from quarantine, y'all. He's become so much of an introvert. We love our animals. So let's introduce ourselves. I'm Ashley, and Maria and I are psychotherapists, speakers, parent coaches, and mindfulness educators. Together, we teach internationally at conferences and at schools. And with our private practices in Los Angeles, California, and strong backgrounds in research, we coach therapists and parents to effectively navigate the new paradigm of 2020 and beyond. We deliver important information to help therapists and families hone those ever important emotional regulation and mindfulness superpowers. We've trained over 1,000 therapists just this year to confidently engage children both on and off the screen with our unique mind-body methodology called the Complete Child Mind-Body Teletherapy Formula.
Okay, just a brief intermission to read these amazing pet names, okay? Bruno, Luna, Dory, Emma Lou, Wade, Marmalade, those are cats. These are adorable. Angel, Pumpkin. Okay, so we bring our trauma research backgrounds, mindfulness, meditation certifications, and expertise in parenting to deliver interactive and dynamic online workshops and trainings. We're both therapists and coaches, and here we're coaching you to engage confidently to do teletherapy online. So here's the thing. We see you guys telling us how exhausted you are performing telehealth sessions with kids, and we know how to do it through a screen in a way where instead of feeling exhausted afterward, you feel away feeling excited and alive. Do you remember that rush of a feeling after a great session in person when you know it went really well? That feeling often comes from feeling confident in yourself and connected to the person that you're with. And as therapists, we like to know we're making an impact, of course. And on telehealth, when you're coming from a deficit, meaning you either don't know how to do it, so you're not confident, or you're exhausted and burnt out when you start, then you set yourself up to have these sessions drag on, lose the interest of the kids on the other side of the screen, and feel insecure about your abilities, which they can tell.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. I'd like to share what our students are saying right from the horse's mouth. Vanessa M. said, when the pandemic began, and we suddenly started with telehealth at my agency, I was overwhelmed and frankly questioned my skills as a therapist. After taking your classes, I've gained my confidence back and have an abundance of tools in my toolkit. And my agency colleagues look to me for advice. I'm forever grateful. If you're just joining us now, we want to be sure you know about our free training on December 11th at 10 a.m. PST. Y'all, that's California time. We'll drop another link in the chat so you can sign up now.
So what do we need to do to get ourselves on track for success with engaging children online through the screen? First, we need to debunk some myths right away. Myth number one is that therapy can't be done with children online. Now, first of all, we've not lost any clients in the pandemic. In fact, we have more. Now, therapists that don't have the right tools, and so then they think that young children can't be engaged online, and that's simply not true. A lot of our clients love telehealth even more with the interventions that we've developed. And for our students, since learning the methodology, they have more clients than they had when they started in March. Once the therapists in our classes had those keys to engaging kids online, they filled their practices, and most importantly, they believed in themselves. Now, what we know is that parents are reaching out for therapy for kids more than ever right now. One student who had only just begun doing teletherapy in March when COVID-19 hit, she reported to us that because of the technique she's learned, she's even become the go-to teletherapy expert in her coworker circle.
Cool.
So myth number two is that the switch to online is a temporary move in our mental health field. So here's some data fresh from the New Child Mind Institute from October of this year. 80% of parents say that telehealth is more convenient than in-person appointments. And 78% say that they plan to continue telehealth sessions going forward even after the pandemic ends. I want to repeat this again. 78% of parents say that they plan to continue with telehealth after the pandemic ends. So here's the thing. Now that parents have had a taste of convenience, most of them are not going back to the office. And that means it's essential to not only tolerate this period, but to master it. Now, when our students begin to master engaging on screen, it provides them an opportunity to be flexible, to work online or off in long term. And not only should we be not losing clients, but we should be using this opportunity to expand our markets. You can position yourselves as pros online, and we'll show you how to do that, whether you're a therapist, an OT, a social worker, or a counselor. There's so many benefits to being online. So I want to invite you to take a mindfulness concept called beginner's mind. Type yes in the chat if you've heard of this concept. It's based on the mind of a child, right? And their wonder for what they can discover that's new, even in a situation that they've never been in before. They consider the possibility, unlike adults who can all too often make their future experience based on what's happened in the past. So imagine you haven't thought about it in this way before, but step into the idea that having an online practice with kids offers you that flexibility, that safety, and access to more clients. And even if you don't dream of having a big online business, this could be an opportunity to get clients and will certainly get you through the pandemic. Now, the third myth is that the move to telehealth is going to destroy your practice. Now, that's true if you don't know how to adapt. Parents are looking for therapists right now. We know this. And in fact, it's worse than you think because so many families need a solution right now. The fact that there's a virus doesn't mean that they don't want help for their kids. They're going to search for someone who's skilled at working online and engaging their children. So if you're not providing it, another therapist is. Now, the good news is that 85% of parents who have used telehealth since the start of the pandemic say that their child has benefited from it. 85%. So they can tell you teletherapy works, and we can tell you teletherapy works. But what we've learned is that what works in person is not what works online. Traditional interventions are doomed to fail because they rely so much on taking the child's lead. So therapists have to pivot now if they want to stay relevant. Think of it like moving from Blockbuster to Netflix. Look, you can have a thriving practice and feel confident doing telehealth. You can feel alive and have fun, but you have to do it in a way that hooks them and engages them. And we'll show you how to do that. Type yes in the chat if you're ready to be an engaging telehealth therapist for children. Now, when we talk about owning that digital space, the more comfortable you are with the idea of it, the better, because then you'll show up more confidently and own your space. So think of it like this. You're not a visitor in a city that you've never been to. You know how to navigate the public transportation system, and you're not afraid to get lost. We really love metaphors around here.
Yes, we do. And when we're getting used to it, we want to remember that screens are weird for us, not our clients. Kids' brains are malleable and adaptive. For you, we want you to focus on not being stressed about being online. When you let go, beautiful things can come out of it. You can have bunnies doing high fives on the screen 1 minute and exploring their feelings in the next. In our complete child mind body teletherapy formula, we show you exactly how to get under their feelings, help them identify it even through the screen. Let's get started with one of our favorite visuals and metaphors for explaining mindfulness. Now, I'm going to hold it up to the screen so that you can see here that I have a good view. You can see not only the jar, but you can see my face next to it, and you can see the jar really well. It's nice and visible. And we talk about this because we want to have good visibility for ultimate engagement. Now, this is how you could explain about this jar to a kiddo, but truth be known, this explanation works for all ages. So what we want to say is this jar represents our mind. The glitter inside of it represents our thoughts, our emotions, and any physical sensations that we might feel. When we shake it up like this, well, that represents when we get upset, overly excited, overwhelmed to the point where we can't see clearly. In this, our perception or what we see around us is clouded. And from this place, we're reactive. We're not responsive. And we can feel unsteady on the inside, like there's a storm going on, just like the glitter jar. So to balance and steady ourselves, we practice coming to one of our 5 senses by literally focusing on your sense of sight. So let's do that now. We're going to shake it up real good and then just watch. You can pay attention to your breath because you're already breathing. So if we bring a little attention to it, well, that's mindful. And as you can see here, the thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations, they didn't disappear, but they settled. Felt good for me too. Take a moment and write in the chat, what do you notice after watching that settle? So if you're just joining us and you haven't heard us from the beginning, we want to make sure we know about our free training on December 11th at 10 a.m. We'll drop another link in the chat while you're writing about how you feel after watching the glitter jar. Now, if any of you might be interested in having a tried and true recipe, Maria and I have made hundreds and hundreds of these jars, type yes in the chat. And we'd be happy to share a link with you of not only how to make a tried and true glitter jar, but that explanation that I just gave you. If you'd like it, type glitter in the chat.
That's a good idea. If you type glitter in the chat, we'll give you the recipe. And it does come with a script, so you can use the description just like Ashley said it. We love to give you guys scripts so that you can feel equipped for your sessions, and you can read them right off the screen when you're with a child on telehealth. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that we provide in our courses to all of our therapists right now is the COVID-19 cheat sheet, which is a packet that you can read and give to parents to help them know how to handle home life in quarantine. Now, this also really gives you an understanding of how to talk about the psychological impact of COVID-19 with parents. We'd love to give you an easy intervention right now that you can do on screen that kids love. Now, an important thing to keep in mind is that children have lost everything: their schools, their friends, their routine, their baseball practices. They're adjusting to a new reality, and that's already affecting them right now. And what we saw in our research team at Columbia University in the young children who were exposed to the 9/11 attacks that had had school canceled for a long time is that children were yearning for life to go back to normal. Now, as therapists, we know that sadness, loss, and grief are a natural part of life and important emotions to understand and normalize for our children, especially now. In the midst of COVID-19 and how much loss our children have endured, we can feel that most everything that was once one way in their lives is now another way. So an excellent activity to honor the losses that can be done online, either with just you and the child or with you and the child with a parent, is to create a book of memories. Now, this would include people, places, and activities in their lives, any important events, fun family trips, any plans they can't continue right now. And this can be done online. If you have access to a shared whiteboard screen, you can draw, or the child can simply draw on the other side of the screen and staple or tape the pictures together into a makeshift book. We really like to give children choices so that they get a chance to exercise agency. And if you have a really involved parent, you can have them print pictures and add photos to it too. And always use your clinical judgment on what's best. So for each item that they draw, we have a series of questions that we ask, which is listed in our intervention scripts in the program. And then we like to act it out right on screen. Now, one thing that our mind-body methodology teaches you is how to make the verbal come to life on screen in play and action. When we engage that mind-body connection, the sessions fly by and the kids don't want to leave. So we'll show you how to do that during our big training next Friday, which you're all welcome to sign up for right now. And I'll drop the link in the chat again.
Yeah, this goes with our mind-body methodology, exactly what you would want to be doing with kiddos. And maybe some of them are doing it already. We know our kids aren't moving as much as they should be, being on Zoom all day long. And with everyone under so much stress, it's even more important than ever that you get up during sessions right now. So this could look a whole bunch of different ways. For example, one of our interventions called Animal Expressions is a way of getting kids to engage using their full body and mind. Now, for our young ones, we have everyone leave the screen and you might say, hey, when I yell lion, let's roar in the screen together. Think about those kiddos who initially leave the screen every few minutes. This is a great tool because when you have a shared plan with the child of what you're going to do, it feels like a game and you can get them back to the screen more easily. Remember, lion, roar. For our middle-aged children, you could select a number of actions to do with each letter that we have from a list on our intervention scripts. Let's say you pick the word lion again. So L-I-O-N. For the letter L, could be anything, jump 3 times like a ballerina. For the letter I, we might shake out our hands, and so on with each letter. Now, once you have a handle of the complete child mind body teletherapy formula, it takes this intervention from simply an activity to a total immersion in exploring with a kiddo that mind body connection to raise awareness in a fun way that's engaging. That mind body methodology for telehealth is a step-by-step method that keeps the child's attention for the entire session.
That's fantastic. Now, here's a pro tip too for those more physical activities. If your kiddo is very little and gets distracted by the keyboard during moments like this, that you can have the parent grab a child-sized t-shirt and wrap it around the bottom of the laptop over the keyboard when the session begins. That makes it easier to set the limit about using the mouse pad and the keyboard, and it creates a cozy feel that's different from the feeling of being on distance school on the laptop. Now, Ashley mentioned we have hundreds of interventions. We also teach a mini course called the 5 Ingredients to Ultimate Engagement. It's awesome. And we don't want to leave today without giving you at least one of those ingredients to think about in your sessions before our big training next Friday. So facial expression is one of our ingredients for ultimate engagement. It's such an important part of our connection with the child clients on screen, especially because they aren't seeing all that much more of us. So we want to take into consideration the ages that children can recognize facial expressions and work accordingly. This is a fun one. So we know that these skills grow as children move through developmental stages. We know that facial cues of happiness are the easiest for young children to recognize. So for example, by the age of 5, most children can identify a happy face with almost adult-like accuracy. Sadness, surprise, anger, or even disgust, those take children much longer to fully understand and recognize. So in one experiment, 5-year-olds had a lot of trouble distinguishing between sad and frightened facial expressions. And even 10-year-olds tended to misjudge sad faces as fearful faces. Now, the reason this is important is because sometimes online, without all of our other cues, a listening face when they're talking can look like an angry face or a bored face.
Do y'all know what a resting witch face is? Y'all know what I mean. We have to be careful of that because when we're in our offices, our clients can feel more of our energy. But when we're going through the screen, they may not be able to pick up on that. We want to be careful that we don't have a resting witch face. We want to be aware of what we look like through the screen. If you're curious about your own facial expressions, we suggest recording yourself, having a conversation with a friend or a colleague, and see what your facial expressions look like. Most people are surprised when they do this. And this is always the funniest moment in our coaching classes. We ask our students who are simply sitting there and listening, minding their own business, to freeze in their facial expression right where they are and look around. Sorry to report, lots of witches, and it's not Halloween. The whole class cracks up. Type witch in the chat if you think this is an important element of teletherapy. And when we're talking about teletherapy, we want to pay special attention because of potential technological glitches. And by the way, we have a tip for glitches too. There's a sloth that comes out. And when we're glitching, we turn into sloths. We go in slow motion. And just like the kid therapist we are, we go with it. We play rather than call the session a bust. We'll teach you how to get creative. You might go in reverse slow motion and try to do things backwards and slowly. And we have our therapists who are learning the methodology practice this tool too. We have so much fun. There are so many more amazing interventions and tools. We're barely scratching the surface, y'all. And no matter what interventions you try once, when you use our complete mind-body formula. The child is engaged in session from start to finish. They don't want to leave. But here's the coolest part. We're hosting a free training. If you've been here the whole time, you've heard it a couple of times, for your community. It's going to be next Friday, the 11th of December at 10 a.m. PST. That's California time. Don't miss it.
We'll put the link in the chat right now for the webinar, and it's just for your group exclusively. It won't be recorded. We'll be on again this Thursday to say hello to you guys again, but the big training is really next Friday, December 11th. And that's 10 a.m. California time, 1 p.m. East Coast time.
Right. So check out your facial expressions, try out that glitter jar, or maybe even a photo album. And we can't wait to see you on the next Facebook Live, and certainly on December 11th for the training.
And if you didn't get the glitter jar intervention that we posted, just put glitter again in the chat and we'll be sure to send it again.
Thank you, everyone. It's been so much fun.
We can't wait to see you next Friday.